guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-free review for Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This is the first book in a YA fantasy, I think it's going to be a trilogy, and this follows the main character of Bree, and she has been accepted to early college at this university. She lives in the South. This is in North Carolina, I believe. And a few months ago, her mother passed very suddenly in a car accident, and she has been reeling from that, and is reeling when she gets to school, and she ends up discovering that there is this magical secret society that has ties to the Arthurian legends, and she gets roped into that along with discovering things about her own background and history, and that there might be some connections to her mother's death, and everything kind of goes from there. This does have triggers for loss of a loved one, depictions of generational trauma involving slavery, rape, abuse, possession, and demons. So first off, we'll talk about the world building. This is a YA urban fantasy series, and I tend to really like urban fantasy series, but sometimes they can get like just a little bit overdone in things. This had so many elements that worked so well that I never would have expected to work well together. So there's kind of multiple different magic systems in here, but it's not so much different magic systems as everybody sort of uses magic in a different way as far as different cultures using magic differently. And that is really interesting. They have different words for things and whatever, but we also have this tie to Arthurian legend and the use of words from Arthurian legend that you'd be familiar with just from like pop culture and stuff. That is used as well here. And it's so interesting how these things are woven together. In here we have demons, we have mediums, we have possession, we have healing magic, we have, you know, super strength, we have all these different kinds of things, making magical objects out of magic, all of this stuff, you know, half demon, half human people. Like, there's just so much with all of that. And the way that it's combined, at first when I was first reading, I was like, oh, I don't know if it's gonna work very well. No, it did. It worked immensely well. It worked so well. When you first start reading this, there's a little bit of like, I would say you're kind of dropped into the world along with Bree. So you're sort of learning with her, so it's done in that way. And I kind of got the feeling, I was like, oh, is this going to be just like this typical, you know, like there's like a demon hunting society, we've seen this before, blah, blah, blah. No, Tracy Deonn has a sort of unique take on some of these things. And the direction she comes at it from is different, and the theme she explores within this is different than what you're getting from like your traditional Arthurian legend retelling kind of things. So next I'm going to talk about our characters. Bree is wonderful. I was rooting for her from the beginning. Her grief story is so good, so raw. The way she talks about grief, the PTSD that she has, the complicated grief that she has because her and her mother were fighting before her mother died. So there's all of this kind of going on, and she just has this like anger. Like, she's really mad at the world, but she also is like shielding the world from her anger, and there's just a lot. She has this impulsive nature, but she's also very smart and very kind. And we also see her grow through a lot because there's so much commentary here on secret societies, what they typically are, and conversations that we in the book community I think have had around secret societies, things like Ninth House and The Secret Life or The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and things where it's like this like dark academia that is white people doing these kinds of things, typically speaking, and there not being a ton of discussion necessarily around like power structures and all that. This book dives into all of that, and through Bree and through Bree's experience as far as her being the only black person in a room, or even one of the only people of color in the room, the microaggressions she experiences, the lack of history with the diaspora that she experiences, even discussions about her hair. She talks about like wash days, which is something I'm familiar with again with curly hair, but like the intricacy of like a wash day and having to like clean your hair and like all this stuff that is just so, which is just something I haven't really seen in a lot of YA books. More recently, yes, but as far as a story like this, it's not something that we tend to see, so I just pulled for her the whole time. Her relationship with her best friend Alice, who she comes to early college with, is really great and very real feeling, and the way she's able to form bonds with other characters is really interesting as well. We also have two other prominent side characters, I would say. The first is Nick, who becomes kind of like this advisor to her because she stumbles a bit when she first gets to school, and so he becomes this advisor, and he's actually the link that gets her sort of into this like magical secret society. And he is the like golden boy, right? Like, he is the nice, really nice guy, but not like the like nice guy like ick. Very nice guy. Just, they have this like instant connection, and for a little bit I felt kind of like about that, but I'll talk about that in a second. So there's all of this with them. And then we also have Sel, who is one of the other magic users that she actually ends up meeting before Nick at like a party or something, and they end up crossing paths, and that's when she starts realizing that she might have some like magical stuff going on with her as well. And he's like the dark and broody bad boy. Now when you're seeing that, you're thinking like, oh, ew, love triangle, like we've seen this. You think you've seen it. But I do think this is a different take on that. One, it's not like a blatant love triangle from the get-go, and two, there's just like a lot more intrigue around there, and a lot more things get revealed as the story goes on, especially towards the end, because I was kind of feeling like, ooh, do I dig some of the like the vibes here and the connection here, and then some stuff gets like revealed later on, like plot-wise, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so intriguing. So love all of that. We also have a plethora of side characters and a number of LGBTQ+ characters. I don't believe Bree has mentioned her sexuality. I don't think, unless there's like a one-off line, but her best friend is a lesbian. There's a non-binary character and everyone uses they them pronouns for them. That is never, there's no microaggression there because we're already dealing with a lot of microaggression against Bree as a black character. There are a number of like bisexual characters. There's just like a lot of queer characters in the mix. So lastly, we'll talk about the plot. This has action, but then also a lot of like thematic exploration and like sort of like character exploration. I wouldn't say it's completely character driven. I mean, it's very driven by Bree, but there's a lot of just explorations of trauma and generational trauma. We see depictions of slavery and abuse and rape. Some of the things I mentioned before with her culture and her history and things like that. So we have all of that against your like sort of typical like demon hunter storyline, and it works so well. And just again, the exploration into people's past and what grief looks like and what culture looks like and loss and all of this stuff mixed in that is really interesting, and I just really like the direction this is going. This has been one of the most promising debuts that I have read in recent years, and I am just so intrigued by what the story has to offer us. This is a book that I read while I was pretty much like in a reading slump. Like I was loving this and still not really like wanting to pick up anything, but I still rated it 5 out of 5 stars because it was so well done that even in a reading slump, I was like, this is great. Where usually a book would be like dinged a little bit just because of my mood and stuff. This was great. I mean, there's so many lines in here that are such a gut punch. This was so well crafted and so well done. So this was our House Salt Book Club pick for January. We have done a full discussion there, so I will link that on the screen for you guys to check out. That is going to be a spoiler discussion. So if you're interested in my spoilery thoughts along with everybody else's spoilery thoughts on this, I will be linking that instead of doing the gush for this book. So those are my thoughts on Legendborn. Comment down below, let me know your thoughts on Legendborn. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.